right now, I want you to think about your brain. It's basically storing thousands of hours of podcasts, right?
Yeah.
Hundreds of saved
Oh,
articles.
the bookmarks. So many bookmarks.
Exactly. Dozens of half-finished online courses, and probably a few of those really nice color-coded notebooks you haven't opened in, well, in a year.
Yeah, that sounds painfully familiar.
Right. And statistically, you will use less than 1% of it. I mean, we're all carrying around this massive vault of potential energy that, well, it never actually does anything.
It's just sitting there gathering dust.
Yeah, mental dust. So today, the mission for this deep dive is to completely change that. We are getting into the Victory with Ashmaster knowledge base.
Specifically, episode 14, right?
Yes, episode 14, which is titled From Knowledge to Skill. And look, the goal here isn't to just hand you yet another disconnected fact to, hoard in your mental filing cabinet.
No, we don't need any more of those.
We really don't. We want to help you cross that brutal, incredibly frustrating gap between what you know and what you can, actually do in the real world.
Which is, I mean, it really is the defining challenge of our era.
It really is. Think about it like downloading this state-of-the-art fitness app. You read all the workout plans perfectly, you memorize the routines, and then you get frustrated that you don't have a six-pack despite never actually picking up a single weight.
That is the perfect analogy.
Yeah.
Because we are living in this time of just absolute information abundance.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, you can literally ask an AI to explain complex financial models to you or cognitive behavioral therapy in like 10 seconds.
Right. It's wild.
But access to information does not automatically equal transformation. The bottleneck for human progress isn't finding the information anymore.
No, not at all.
The bottleneck is implementation.
Okay.
And a lot of that, well, it comes down to a fundamental misunderstanding of how our brains process the act of learning versus the act of doing.
I really want to dig into that biological side for a second. Because Ash's framework, it points out this concept of the illusion of progress.
Oh, the illusion of progress is huge.
It's so sneaky. We collect information, and it actually feels like we're doing the work. When I buy a new book on leadership, I honestly feel like I'm a better leader just by, carrying it out of the bookstore.
Yeah, and that is a very real neurological trap. When you buy a course or, you download a comprehensive guide, your brain actually releases a hit of dopamine.
Wait, really? Just from buying it?
Just from acquiring it. It rewards you for the acquisition of the resource, so you feel productive. Collecting those beautiful notes, it gives you the biological sensation of advancing.
Yeah.
You are literally getting biologically rewarded for doing absolutely nothing practical. I mean, learning about an action is fundamentally different from taking an action, but our brains, they often blur that line.
So we basically just get addicted to the feeling of preparing.
Exactly.
We fall into that perfectionism track, the old, I just need to understand everything completely before I start excuse.
Right, which never happens.
Never. Which brings to mind that story from the Ash framework about the two different people studying communication.
Oh yes, learner A and learner B.
Yeah. So learner A is your classic consumer. They watch every single lesson in this communication masterclass. They take detailed notes. They highlight all the big ideas.
Probably color coding everything.
Oh, absolutely. They buy supplemental books. They even purchase a second course just to make sure they have all the theoretical frameworks locked down.
Right.
But they rarely actually step up to speak.
And then you consider learner B. Learner B watches just one lesson on, say, active listening, or maybe vocal tonality.
Just one.
Just one. They pause a course,
Yeah.
and they immediately go out and apply that one single idea in a real conversation at the office that same afternoon.
I love that.
And they make mistakes. It feels incredibly awkward.
Yeah.
But they ask for feedback, and they adjust.
Right.
So over the course of a few months, learner A definitely knows more trivia and facts about the psychology of communication. But learner B actually communicates better.
Because learner B actually converted a tiny fraction of knowledge into actual experience.
Exactly.
Okay, I hear that, but let me challenge the underlying premise here for a second.
Go for it.
If we're talking about avoiding the perfectionism trap, isn't there still a real danger in starting before you actually know what you're doing? I mean, if I just jump into the doing phase without studying the theory deeply, I'm risking catastrophic failure. I wouldn't want learner B performing surgery on me after watching a single YouTube short,
No, of course not. And that distinction is exactly why the Victory with Ash philosophy maps out a specific sequence, the 7 stages of development.
Okay.
It doesn't advocate for chaotic, blind action. The framework moves through awareness, understanding, application, practice, feedback, consistency, and finally, mastery.
So it's a progression.
It's a very clear progression. Most of our listeners already live in the first two stages. Awareness and understanding are essential. You have to know the frameworks.
Right, you need the foundation.
But the massive friction point we need to solve today is that psychological barrier of moving from stage 2 understanding into stage 3, which is application.
You know, let's use a software metaphor for this because I think it fits perfectly.
Oh yeah, let's hear it.
So, stages 1 and 2, awareness and understanding, that's just downloading the software.
Right.
You've got the installer file sitting on your desktop. Application, stage 3, is actually double-clicking the executable file and running the program.
Yes.
You can have the most powerful, incredibly expensive software sitting on your hard drive, but until you run it, it does absolutely nothing for you. And yeah, the first time you run it, it might be buggy, it might crash your system.
It probably will crash.
Right, but you have to hit execute.
That is a brilliant way to conceptualize it. Application is the bridge. It's writing that first article, leading that first meeting, building that first workflow.
It's doing the thing.
Doing the thing. And then practice develops your capability to run that software smoothly. Feedback reveals the bugs in your code. Consistency makes the program reliable. And over time, all of that compiles into mastery.
Wow.
But none of those later stages exist if you refuse to cross that bridge of application.
So, if application is the bridge, the obvious question is, how do we systematically force ourselves to cross it? Especially when, like you said earlier, the dopamine system wants us to just stay on the couch and buy another course.
Right. It's fighting our own biology.
It is. So the victory approach suggests that before we get into the mechanical steps, we need an operating system upgrade.
Yes.
A foundational mindset shift built on 3 specific concepts: rise, reset, and refocus.
Those 3 concepts are the required architecture for crossing the gap. Rise is fundamentally a decision.
Okay.
It is the conscious choice to stop settling for less than your potential and to take absolute, unblinking responsibility for your future. You cannot change your trajectory until you consciously choose to prioritize uncomfortable action over your own comfort.
Like the decision to stop outsourcing your success to a future version of yourself.
Yes.
You have to actually want to get in the arena today.
Then comes the second step, reset. This is about deliberate realignment. It means identifying and actively removing the limiting beliefs and destructive habits that are currently keeping you anchored to the starting line.
Which is hard.
It's very hard. You cannot build a better future while dragging the heavy, counterproductive habits that caused your current frustrations. A reset clears the memory, so to speak, creating the necessary psychological space for growth.
Which leads directly into refocus, directing your energy toward what actually moves the needle.
Exactly.
Because we live in a modern environment entirely engineered to fracture your attention and, frankly, sell it to advertisers.
It's the reality of it.
Focus is what creates forward momentum. You have to eliminate the noise and ruthlessly prioritize your meaningful goals. It's like trying to plant a seed in a concrete sidewalk.
Oh, that's a good visual.
You can have the best seed in the world, which is the information you've gathered, but without resetting the environment and creating the right soil, it will just never grow.
And this ties heavily into Ash Mufaria's broader philosophy about why people actually fail.
Right.
Most people do not fail because they lack intelligence or even because they lack opportunity. They fail because they lack clarity, they lack mentorship, accountability, and a growth-focused environment.
Yeah.
Growth is rarely an information problem. It is almost always an implementation problem.
Which makes your environment the soil where all this happens. If you try to run this new mindset while surrounded by people who are chronically cynical or, comfortable in their stagnation, you're just going to get pulled right back down.
Environment dictates standards. The people you surround yourself with shape your baseline habits.
100%.
And this is why mentorship is so heavily emphasized in the framework. A good mentor dramatically shortens your learning curve because they have already survived the messy application phase.
They've been there.
They've made the mistakes you are about to make. They can guide you around those pitfalls and, crucially, keep you accountable when the initial excitement fades and you just want to quit.
Okay, so let's assume we have our environment dialed in. We've gone through the rise, reset, and refocus shift.
Okay.
What is the actual mechanical process we use to turn a piece of knowledge into a reliable skill? The framework introduces a continuous learning loop, right? Learn, understand, apply, practice, receive feedback, improve, repeat, teach, amplify.
That's the loop.
The fatal error most of us make is treating understanding as the finish line, when it's actually just the starting block.
Exactly. To run that loop effectively, the philosophy provides 10 key principles.
Right.
We don't need to walk through every single one, but we should examine the mechanisms behind the most critical ones. The first principle is learn with a purpose.
Okay, what does that look like?
It means abandoning random consumption. Instead of saying, I want to learn digital marketing, you say, I want to learn enough digital marketing to generate 5 qualified leads a week for my own consulting business. You anchor the learning to a tangible, immediate outcome.
So if purpose is the starting line, the clock immediately starts ticking. Which brings us to the principle of applying quickly.
Yes.
We touched on knowledge evaporation earlier. How fast does that actually happen if we don't put the idea into practice?
Fast. The human brain is incredibly efficient at discarding information it deems irrelevant to survival or immediate use.
Really?
Oh yeah. The rule of thumb in the framework is to ask yourself, how can I use this specific lesson within the next 24 hours?
24 hours. Wow.
If you learn a negotiation tactic on a Tuesday morning, use it when discussing project timelines that Tuesday afternoon. If you don't use it within that 24-hour window, the neural pathways associated with that memory begin to weaken significantly.
Use it or lose it, literally.
Literally.
And that ties beautifully into the concept that consistency beats intensity.
Yeah.
I think a lot of high achievers struggle with this one.
Oh, constantly.
We think if we want to learn coding, we need to lock ourselves in a room for a 14-hour weekend marathon. But the framework argues that 20 minutes of daily practice is far superior. What is the actual cognitive science behind that?
It comes down to how the brain physically rewires itself. When you practice a skill, your brain fires specific neural pathways. When you do this consistently over multiple days, your brain wraps those pathways in a fatty substance called myelin.
Okay, myelin.
Myelation acts like insulation on a copper wire. It makes the electrical signal travel faster and more reliably. A 10-hour cram session just overloads your short-term memory, and your brain ends up dumping most of it during sleep.
Wow, so it's a waste.
Largely, yes. But 20 minutes a day, every day, forces the brain to continuously myelinate those specific pathways. Consistency physically alters the structure of your brain. Intensity just makes you tired.
That is fascinating. So dilution, like trying to learn AI, coding, and sales all at once, prevents that myelination because you're firing too many different pathways too weakly.
Exactly.
Which is why the framework insists on focusing on one high-value skill at a time.
Focus creates depth. It allows the myelination process to actually compound.
I want to pivot to a principle that really caught my eye. Teach what you learn. Looking at the learning loop, teach comes right near the end. But if I'm just figuring this out myself, right? Trying to build this new neural pathway, teaching seems like a massive leap. Doesn't that invite overwhelming imposter syndrome?
It does.
I mean, who am I to instruct someone else when I'm still a beginner?
That fear of being an imposter is completely natural, but it stems from a misunderstanding of what teaching actually accomplishes in this context. You aren't teaching to position yourself as an infallible global guru.
Right.
You are teaching because the act of explaining forces you to organize your own chaotic thoughts. It is the ultimate diagnostic tool for your own brain.
So it's a stress test for my own understanding.
Precisely. If you learned a new artificial intelligence concept, try to explain it in everyday language to a friend who has never used an AI tool. If you find yourself relying on heavy jargon or stumbling over the explanation, it immediately highlights the gaps in your own comprehension.
That makes a lot of sense. The jargon is just a hiding place and we don't actually get it.
Exactly. Teaching isn't about showing off. It is the most honest form of feedback you can get.
Okay, if we end the deep dive right here, we are violating the very rules we're talking about.
We really are.
We'd just be giving everyone another dopamine hit of interesting theory. We have to move into real-world application.
We need to force the transition from stage 2 to stage 3.
Yes. The framework strongly advocates for building skills through real projects. If you want to learn copywriting, don't buy a grammar textbook, publish 10 articles online.
Right.
If you want to learn leadership, don't just read biographies, volunteer to take responsibility for a low-stakes community project. But as we enter this messy application phase, the philosophy warns about some very specific psychological traps.
And the most toxic of those traps is the comparison game. We have a terrible habit of comparing our stage 3, our messy, uncomfortable first attempt at application, to someone else's stage 7 mastery.
Oh, yeah. That's a killer.
You cannot compare your first rough draft of a project to someone who's been consistently myelinating their neural pathways for a decade. Progress is entirely personal.
And another massive hurdle is feedback avoidance, ego protection. We say we want to get better, but when someone actually points out a flaw in our execution, we get defensive.
Because feedback stings. It shatters the illusion that we are already experts, but uncomfortable feedback is the only thing that accelerates the skill.
Without it, what happens?
If you operate in a vacuum, you will just practice your own mistakes until they become permanent habits.
Ouch. To combat that isolation and fear, the Victory with Ash framework offers a 30-day knowledge to skill challenge. And I love this because it's not a rigid, terrifying corporate performance review.
No, not at all.
It's more like building a personal sandbox. You're not trying to construct a structurally sound skyscraper on day one. You're just getting into the sandbox, building a lopsided sandcastle, and figuring out how the sand actually feels in your hands.
And the low stakes of a sandbox environment are what prevent paralysis. The challenge starts with radical focus. You choose one single skill, not a vague category, but a highly specific outcome.
So instead of saying, I want to be better at video editing, it's in 30 days, I want to be able to edit a clean 1-minute promotional video with captions and background music.
Yes, you define the exact finish line. From there, you spend a very short, focused sprint learning the absolute fundamentals. You don't try to master the entire software suite, you just learn the 3 tools you need for that specific video. Then you immediately transition to applying it in a real situation.
And this is where the daily consistency kicks in. Step 5 of the challenge is practicing on a realistic schedule, finding that 20 minutes a day to actually make the cuts, adjust the audio, and, struggle with the interface.
And during that process, you seek out trusted feedback. You find someone who knows what they are looking at, you let them point out your weak spots, and you deliberately work to improve them.
Yeah.
You build a tangible project, in this case, the finished video. You teach someone else how you did it to solidify your own understanding. And finally, you sit down and reflect on what actually improved and where you still feel friction.
It's an entire ecosystem of skill acquisition compressed into 1 month. And the ultimate goal of doing this, of pushing through the friction, the ego hits, and the messy sandcastles, is to turn that new skill into actual value. Because a skill isn't just a party trick you keep in your basement.
No, a skill only becomes socially and economically valuable when it solves a meaningful problem for someone else.
Absolutely.
If you push through the friction to learn advanced communication, you can help fractured teams collaborate. If you learn AI, you can help overwhelmed people work more efficiently. The end goal of the entire framework isn't just to proudly declare, I have this capability. The goal is to ask, how can I use this capability to serve?
So let's bring this all together. What does this mean for you, listening right now, sitting with all that stored potential energy?
The core philosophy of episode 14 is a wake-up call. We live in an incredibly abundant world. The great challenge of our lifetime is no longer finding the information you need. It is cultivating the discipline to transform that infinite information into true capability.
Yeah.
Knowledge simply unlocks the door. Deliberate, messy application is what teaches you how to step through it. And consistent everyday action is what turns that initial step into reliable, world-changing capability.
Which brings us to the most critical part of this entire deep dive. We are issuing a direct challenge to you. Do not let this just be another deep dive you consume to feel productive.
Please don't.
Do not just think, wow, that was a fascinating perspective on neuroscience, and then go back to scrolling. If you do that, you've missed the entire point. We want you to take action within the next 24 hours.
24 hours.
Open a fresh note on your phone or grab a physical piece of paper right now. Write down one specific skill you want to develop. Define the exact tangible outcome you want in 30 days. Write down the very first practical action you're going to take to cross the bridge into application, and write down the start date. Make that start date today or tomorrow.
And critically, do not attempt to run this new operating system in your old environment.
Absolutely. If you want the mentorship, the accountability, and the specific high-growth environment necessary to actually rise, reset, and refocus, you need to plug into the Victory with Ash community. Check out the link in the description. That's https://victorywithash.com/referred code JG87CS4TJY to join the community and claim your spot.
That's right.
Surround yourself with people who are also doing the hard, unglamorous work of turning knowledge into action.
Because the people you surround yourself with will either pull you back into the comfort of consumption or push you toward the reality of your potential. As we close out, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over.
Let's hear it.
Think about the one person you admire most in your chosen field. The master whose level of capability you desperately aspire to reach. Ask yourself, are they highly successful simply because they have read the most books on the topic? Or is it because they have endured the highest number of cycles of messy practice, uncomfortable feedback, and public failure?
Wow.
What if the only thing truly separating you from them isn't some rare natural genius, but simply their willingness to be a clumsy beginner at the application stage while everyone else was still just taking notes?